There are still people arguing about Darian Mensah, Luke Ferrelli, and other schools trying to cheat. It's time we talked about why it happens and if there's anything that can be done about it.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day, right here on the nation's #1 podcasting network, Locked On. We are brought to you by our friends over at Mazda. We put the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work that defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. There's more to a Mazda because there is more to you. We're going to be discussing whose fault is all this mess with the cheating later on in the show. Show me the money. Hint, it is a very important factor for this show and throughout college football. Who's cheating and how do they get it done? This is where it's interesting. But to start, does cheating really matter? Yes, it does. But no, it's not going away. So here's the deal. I'm going to throw out a few questions here and you guys can look at them as you see fit, and I'll get to them here in a second. Is cheating going away? No, because the risk is worth the reward. That's why coaches cheat. If you look at number one on my sheet here, if you're on YouTube, I'll read these off, but you understand why I lead with this. Why do coaches risk cheating? Because they want to keep jobs that give them a lot of money, and there aren't many careers that have this kind of straightforward cash. You can be a position coach, make $200,000-$300,000, maybe $400,000 or $500,000. There are guys like Coach Smith out there at Penn State. He's making like $4 million now. He's stuck around forever. He's not even like the offensive or defense coordinator. It's just crazy money. So depending on where you are and why you do certain things to get to that level, maybe you just like being at that school, so you stuck around and you got rewarded. Well, once you get there, if your team goes down a little bit, you've got to find a way to show your value beyond the wins and losses. Recruiting, transfer portal acquisitions, those things are worth the risk because if you get fired, so be it, but you're probably going to get fired anyway. That's reality. Number two, is it only the coaches doing the dirty work? Oh, absolutely not. In fact, and this could be an entire week's worth of shows, there are a lot of people behind the scenes that get some of this stuff done. And I wrote down just a few of them. Boosters, high school coaches, trainers, parents, agents, 7-on-7 coaches. I mean, former teammates are a big part of it. But everybody initiates in some way, shape, or form, and especially as it relates to the portal. You may have recruited a young man hard, and it didn't work out for whatever reason. But 2 years later, he's had some success, but his coaching staff changes. They go to the NFL or they get a different job. Maybe that guy doesn't want to be at that school anymore. He's not in the portal, though. So you call his old trainer, somebody that you know well. Another person may know this person down the road, blah, 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 that knows the kid, grew up with, whatever it is, trainer. It could be somebody that lives near him, whatever it is. You have a go-between. Those are really the people that do the dirty work. And sometimes they get paid, sometimes they don't, but that's the process. So what is the process? Is it straightforward? No, it changes with every single scenario. I'm getting ready to go to Battle Vegas as I do this podcast. I'm getting ready to hop on a flight, head out to New Orleans, go to Las Vegas, Super Bowl weekend, hang out with Coastline 7-on-7 at Battle Vegas. I'm going to hear stories just like I do every single time I go to a 7-on event, a camp, or a combine about somebody trying to get a recruit or or a player from one roster to another in college. It's constant. That's not going to change. To that end, there's always a different route, but there's a connection somewhere that college coach is trying to get a guy off another roster or a high school recruit or a JUCO recruit. And sometimes they don't even have to initiate it. Sometimes like a booster will do it on their own, even if they shouldn't. They do. That's why it is so entangled in a very auspicious web. Number 4, Why doesn't the NCAA or other entities put a stop to it? Well, a couple reasons. The NCAA is toothless because they're just afraid of getting sued, and it is overwhelming, even if they weren't. And number two, when you think of the other entities, usually government comes to mind. Well, let's be really blunt. How many people want to get voted out of office? Let me give you an example. The state of Tennessee has a law that is, you can look this up, it's complete lawyer speak, so I'm not going to go in there and quote it. But basically, nobody, including the NCAA, is going to come in and tell Tennessee what they can or can't pay anybody. And that's just not going to hold up as they go through this process they're right in the middle of right now. The state of Tennessee is going to be a big snafu on how much each league can pay, or if it's going to be all across the board, whatever. Tennessee, the state's trying to be an outlier. Well, that doesn't work. So it's complicated, but if you're somebody that's a senator or any form of a public figure in government there, and you speak out against them doing that, what are your chances of being reelected? If you speak out against the state, and it doesn't have to be Tennessee, but that's obviously a big one. In any state, if you speak out against the local football program in any way, shape, or form, what are your chances of being reelected? Zero, pretty much. So that's a problem. And then number 5, the next stop to making college football less slimy, I think they're going to have to, like the state of Tennessee is going to come into this, they're going to have to come to some terms at some point and make these guys employees, but that's down the road. And the slimy part is really the people up above, because once they're employees, they're going to make more money. And the college football people, meaning advertisers, the NCAA, et cetera, they all want their piece of the pie without sharing it as much as they possibly can. And this is kind of outside the bar, but still it's part of it. They don't want to have the likelihood of paying for long-term injuries 20 years from now, 30, 40 years from now. Probably still going to happen in some capacity, but if they're employees, it's believed that it's easier. So all of those things are awkward, but there's still more to it than that. When I come back, I'm going to describe a little bit more of it. It's a really entangled web, and I want to dig in, and please comment down below. We're going to go a little further into this right after the break. That is next right here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by Mazda, moving the game forward for those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. And this is not about a specific person. It's about a specific thought process. Leadership is needed to drive any business, and in this case, college football. There have been many great leaders for a long time. Maybe it will be Nick Saban this time as a commissioner over college football to oversee some of the concerns and the oversights. There needs to be legislation in some way, shape, or form where everybody can be on the same playing field to the best of our ability. There's no such thing as, quote unquote, just straightforward being fair. I'm going to talk about that in a minute when we get back from break, but this is important. If you do not have a baseline, it won't work, and it takes leadership to get there. We put the same pride and passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there is more to you. Check out the Everydayer Club in the description down below. $5 a month or $50 a year. That means no ads for you on your audio, Spotify, Apple, Podbean, wherever. Check out the description down below for the Discord as well. So here are those questions again. And just to put it in perspective, I'm just going to go through them. Why do coaches risk cheating? It's money. It's keeping their job. It's doing something they love. All of those things kind of go into it, but it's really about the money. How many jobs you make, the kind of money even just the assistants make in college football? Not a lot. Number 2, is it only the coaches doing their dirty work? No, it's a plethora. 7-on-7 coaches, trainers, etc. There are a lot of people that have their hand in this. Of course, agents, and sometimes they try to get their guys to transfer because they think they can get more out of it if they do. There's all kinds of ways to look at this, and it can get very, very awkward. What is the process, and is it straightforward in terms of the cheating? No, there is no one specific process, but there is one overwhelming theme. Somebody has been recruited by a coach or coaches, and more often than not, they still have those contacts, and they will induce somebody to get in the portal. Or after a kid commits as a recruit, they just continue to find different avenues that have somebody go talk to them or do something to get around them. Number 4, why doesn't the NCAA or anybody else get involved with it? The NCAA is afraid of being sued, and many of the politicians that are involved, they don't want to speak out because it might sound like they're against the local school, the local state university. That means they're probably going to be voted out of office. And then finally, the next step to making it less slimy, that's where we're at right now. Here's the deal. There has to be somebody that's a commissioner. I mentioned this during the Mazda ad. Nick Saban's been kicked around is a great idea. I think that's a possibility, but there could be other people that are involved as well. And he would need other people underneath him and just call them general managers for each region, whatever it is, somebody for each conference, however you want to view it. You would probably need more than one for the South. You probably need 3 or 4 because that's where most of recruiting is done. At the end of the day, you still have to kind of have a baseline for what's allowed. Like, let me give you an example. Luke Ferrelli, he was at Clemson. He was enrolled. Once a kid's enrolled, there shouldn't be any pulling somebody off roster. His situation was just vocal because Dabo did a press conference. That is far from the only time that's happened. It was just more vocal. So let me be clear. The cheating's not going to stop until there are some kind of rules. Finally, and most notably, there has to be some kind of penalty. Like somebody has to get drilled. There is no shortcut here. When I mean drilled, I'm talking about scholarship loss, postseason ban. Those are the things that matter because that costs you money and it embarrasses everybody involved. You can find somebody to a certain degree, but even if it's $1 million, they're going to do it to cheat. They don't care. You have to eliminate them from being in the playoff mix. That's the key. And unfortunately, I don't know how it will work, but there has to be a first team. But when they do it, they need to quickly follow with somebody else and say, well, you're basically signaling that we're the only ones, we're being used as a scapegoat. NCAA or whoever the entity is would have to hit a few different schools pretty quick so they wouldn't get sued. It is so awkward to do this, but I just don't see any other way to make it work. But anyway, thank you very much. I just kind of wanted to get this off my chest. Everybody is cheating in some way, shape, or form. The Darian Mensah thing with Miami, the situation with Luke Ferrelli and Ole Miss, Manny Diaz and Duke is their quarterback. And then like Ferrelli, he was going to be with Dabo over there at Clemson. That's like, those are just more out in the open. Know that there really is not a team that is not doing some of this stuff in some way, shape, or form, or there aren't entities working on their behalf. And to be honest, it is such a widespread thing. I'm tired of hearing about it. Find a way to play within the realm that is today. And if you're a fan, stop complaining. That means your team isn't figuring it out one way or the other, fair or not. And college football has never been fair. So it is what it is. Thank you very much for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day right here on the nation's #1 podcasting network, Locked On. We will see you again soon.